Okay, well, we've got our gear blank mounted on the mandrel, 1/2 inch bore, and this gear is going to have 47 teeth on it, and the diameter is 1.88. The formula is n plus 2 divided by dp, so n is 47, the number of teeth, so 49 divided by 26. I'm using a 26 dp cutter, which is this one here. And if we divide 49 by 26, we get 1.88 inches. So that's the diameter of the blank. So we'll mount that in the mill and get the dividing head set up. So I'm backing the mandrel up against the chuck right at that end, because I'm going to be cutting in that direction, so the forces will be taken up by the chuck rather than against the tailstock. Right, so let's have a look at the setup of the dividing head. So we are cutting 47 teeth, and according to the Methodical chart, 47 teeth, that's the number of divisions, 47 teeth. We need to use the 47 index wheel, and this just happens to be a coincidence because you see here if we're cutting 48 teeth we use the 32 index wheel, 49 is 49, 50 is 45, so this is just a coincidence that they're both the same. And we index 1 full turn plus 13 47ths, so 1 full turn and 13 holes. So on this particular plate, 47 is the outside row of holes here, and if I'm in that particular hole, I've got 13 teeth around here, so there are 14 teeth between the two arms of the quadrant, and that sometimes is a bit confusing, and I have made that mistake of setting this to 13 teeth around there because the chart says 1 plus 13, whereas in fact it should have been 14 teeth here, 14 holes here. So 1 revolution plus 13 is 1 revolution, which takes us to there, plus 13 more. So the sequence of events here is we tighten the dividing head with this clamp screw, which clamps the shaft to the chuck. We cut the gear. We then rotate the loosen the shaft, rotate this 1 revolution plus 13 teeth, drop it into the 13th hole, advance the quadrant, tighten the shaft, cut the next gear. Now, one important thing to note is that if when we are rotating the index pin and we happen to overshoot our hole, it's not good enough to come back to the hole and drop the pin in, because there is a bit of backlash in this, and if we don't take up that backlash, then that tooth will be cut in the wrong place. So if you do happen to overshoot, you have to go back a number of teeth to take up the backlash and then have a second go. So what I like to do is drop the pin halfway between the last two holes. So I'll just demonstrate that again on this one, which you can probably see a bit better. I'll zoom you in a bit here. So tighten the shaft, cut that tooth, loosen the shaft, rotate 1 revolution, and then I like to drop the pin in that space between the last two holes, and then slide it into the hole. and that ensures that I don't end up with backlash. Cut the tooth, loosen the shaft, 1 revolution plus 13, and drop the pin just before the hole, slide it into the hole, rotate the quadrant, so that way we don't have a backlash problem. So let's move the camera and we'll cut some teeth. Right, so the next trick is to get the centre in the mandrel in the right place. Centre is a little bit tight for some reason. That's better. So I'm going to be cutting that way towards the chuck, the reason being that my mandrel is actually against the back of the chuck, so it's less likely to move than if I cut that way. Right, so the next thing is to get the cutter dead over centre height, and there are several ways of doing that. I mean, I could measure it all with a dial gauge, but another method which works reasonably well is to just wind it down until it just touches, traverse, makes a witness mark on the top of the gear, and then centre in that witness mark. Right, so there's our witness mark. Just get a torch, because I traversed across the witness mark has got to be centre. And it's pretty easy to see where centre is. So I'll just zero it and see how close we, so I reckon centre is there, which is 4th hour on the index. I reckon centre is there. Tenth hour. Sixth hour. So we're within 6th hour each time that I have a guess at it. So I'm going to choose that as my on centre line. And where's the spanner? So we're going to lock the cross slide. Right, now because we have just touched, we've got our top dead centre, sorry, our vertical distance correct, and the cutter says 82 thou. So I'm going to wind the table up 82, 40, 60, 70, 80, 82 thou. So that's our tooth depth, and lock the jib in that direction. Right, so dividing head is secure, dividing head is parallel to the bed. We've got that set on the first tooth. Just make sure that these are tight, which I know they are. That's set correctly, so our cutting our speed is right, and we've got the feet in the right direction, and our cutting depth is right. So some cutting oil handy, so we should be good to go. Tooth now. The reason I'm making these gears is because the feed rate from the gears that I have on the mill is actually too slow. Which is quite obvious. I've got two sets of gears, one of which is too fast and one of which is too slow. So what I'm doing is making something in the middle. So we'll cut the rest of the teeth off camera and then come back to you when we've got one tooth to go. Just having a look at the operation from this end of the machine. Tooth's cut, the feed's been turned off, so reverse the table, loosen the quadrant, and it's important here when we go to the next tooth to only go clockwise, so we can't back up, so we've got to go forward and drop into that tooth without any lost motion. If we go past the tooth, for example, if we went past it by mistake, then we'd have to go back, take up the backlash, and then come forward and drop into the tooth without any lost motion. Then we advance the quadrant, lock the slide, and start the feed, and cut the next tooth. It is a fairly slow and laborious process, particularly with my feed gears here being the wrong size, but you've got to do it methodically and carefully, because there's nothing more soul destroying than getting 3/4 of the way around and cutting a fat tooth or a thin tooth. Right, that's the last tooth, and the brave thing to do is then to cut the next one, because the next tooth shouldn't touch. So we'll do that. Perfect. So the last tooth, or the last pass, which was that one there, that was the very first tooth that we cut. So we cut it a second time and there was no cutting noises. So the good thing is that our gear is done. Now before I take it out, I just want to take the cutter out and make sure that I did in fact cut it to the right depth, because I cut it to a depth of 82 thou, and halfway through the process I had a horrible suspicion that it might have been 92, not 82. So I'm just going to take the cutter out and see what's marked on it. If I don't take the gear out of the out of the mill, then I'll be able to get it back again all in one piece. $82.9, which is good. So I actually set it to 82, so we undercut the teeth by 0.9, which I don't think is going to create an issue. So we're good to remove it. Right, well, there it is. It looks pretty good. No thick or thin teeth, which we knew that anyway. If the last tooth had not cut correctly, then we would have been in trouble. So now I've got to make this is a 47 tooth, so I now need to make a matching gear, which will be around 60 odd for the other opposing gear on the mill. Time to go home for tea.